We bring you this special report from Copenhagen, Denmark, where the Danish capital has turned into the heart of European diplomacy. On October 1st, 2025, at the historic Christiansborg Palace, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen welcomed leaders from across the European Union for an informal but strategically crucial summit. The focus of this meeting is Europe's collective defence posture and the continuing effort to sustain support for Ukraine as the war grinds on into its fourth year. From the early hours, the palace courtyard transformed into a theatre of diplomatic ritual. Motorcades arrived one after another, and cameras captured the series of warm but businesslike greetings. Bulgaria's Prime Minister Rosen Jelyaskov was among the first to arrive, greeted by Prime Minister Frederiksen with a firm handshake. Soon after, Romania's President Nicolae stepped out of his car and exchanged polite words with the Danish leader. The procession of leaders underscored the unity of the bloc. Slovenia's Prime Minister Robert Golob followed, walking briskly up the palace steps to greet his host. Moments later came Luxembourg's Prime Minister Luc Frieden, reflecting the mix of large and small member states represented in Copenhagen. The scene carried a sense of purpose as Estonia's Prime Minister Kristen Michal entered the courtyard, exchanging a few determined words with Frederiksen. The arrival of Belgium's Prime Minister Bart De Wever briefly lightened the atmosphere. He offered Frederiksen a box of Belgian chocolates, drawing a rare smile and a laugh in front of the cameras. The gesture provided a human touch to a day otherwise devoted to pressing matters of security and strategy. Further down the line came Portugal's Prime Minister Luis Montenegro, followed by Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk, who greeted the Danish leader with a playful surprise, a moment that contrasted with the serious discussions awaiting them inside. Latvia's Prime Minister Evika Silina stopped for a quick photograph with Frederiksen before joining the other leaders, highlighting the Baltic states' strong presence at the summit. The flow of arrivals continued steadily. Malta's Prime Minister Robert Abela, the European Union's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas, and the President of the European Parliament Roberta Metsola each greeted Frederiksen before heading inside. Their presence signalled that this summit was not just about national leaders, but also about the EU's institutional leadership coming together in a collective approach to defence and diplomacy. Leaders from the north arrived with equal urgency. Finland's Prime Minister Antti-Petteri Orpo was seen exchanging quick words with Frederiksen before stepping into the palace. A particularly significant moment came with the arrival of Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission. She embraced Frederiksen warmly, a gesture that reflected the shared resolve to strengthen Europe's unity in the face of Russian aggression. Earlier in the day, von der Leyen had warned in her remarks, "Russia tries to sow division and anxiety in our societies. We will not let this happen." The stream of leaders included Greece's Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis, Czech Prime Minister Peter Fiala, and Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof, each pausing briefly to greet Frederiksen before proceeding indoors. Their presence demonstrated how far-reaching the security debate has become, drawing in countries from the Mediterranean to Northern Europe. Representatives of Central Europe arrived next, among them Austria's Chancellor Christian Stocker and Ireland's Prime Minister Michael Martin. They were followed by Thérèse Blanchet, the EU's Secretary-General, and Antonio Costa, President of the European Council. Soon after, Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson arrived and was seen exchanging a close, earnest conversation with Frederiksen, underscoring the particular security concerns of the Nordic region. The eastern flank of the Union was represented by Lithuania's President Gitanas Nausėda and Croatia's Prime Minister Andrej Plenković, both arriving with solemn expressions. A lighter moment returned as Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni greeted Frederiksen with a warm laugh, briefly softening the otherwise tense atmosphere of the day. That levity quickly gave way to gravity again when Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán stepped forward. Known for his frequent opposition to some EU policies, Orbán's presence reminded observers of the political divides that still run through the bloc, even as it seeks common ground on defence and Ukraine. One of the most closely watched arrivals was that of French President Emmanuel Macron, who walked side by side with Frederiksen, appearing deep in conversation as they made their way into the palace. France has pushed for Europe to take greater responsibility for its own defence, a message Macron would stress later in the day. In his remarks, he said, Our work will be dedicated to supporting Ukraine and Europe's defence, two essential topics that require both operational and financial commitment. The final wave of leaders included Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez and Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz, whose arrival completed the presence of Europe's two largest economies. Above the scene, the fluttering flags of EU member states provided a striking image of continental unity against the backdrop of deepening security challenges. Beyond the choreography of handshakes and welcomes, the stakes of this summit were evident. With the war in Ukraine continuing, European leaders face urgent questions about how to keep weapons, ammunition, and funding flowing to Kyiv. The discussions also addressed the growing threat of hybrid warfare, cyber attacks, drone incursions, and acts of sabotage, which have increasingly targeted Europe's infrastructure and airspace. Danish Prime Minister Frederiksen has been one of the most vocal leaders on this issue. In remarks ahead of the summit, she warned, "We are facing a hybrid war. We see sabotage, we see drones flying over our airspace. This is no longer hypothetical." Her words underscored the immediate security concerns felt by countries along Europe's northern and eastern borders. Another key topic of the day was the debate over Europe's strategic autonomy, the question of how much the EU should rely on NATO and the United States for its defence, and how much it should invest in building its own collective capabilities. French President Macron has been the leading voice pushing for a more independent European defence policy, arguing that Europe must have the capacity to act decisively on its own when necessary. This vision contrasts with the views of leaders who prefer to deepen the EU's partnership with NATO. The summit also brought renewed attention to the proposed SAFE programme, a French-backed plan to mobilise exceptional EU-level loans to strengthen Europe's defence industries and bolster the protection of its eastern borders. Supporters argue that such a plan is crucial to ensure that Europe can sustain the supply of weapons and air defence systems needed both for Ukraine and for its own security. Critics worry about the cost and about the risks of fragmenting transatlantic defence cooperation. The images of the day carried both symbolic and political weight. The Belgian chocolate exchange between Bart de Wever and Mette Frederiksen reminded viewers that diplomacy is often built on personal gestures. The animated walk and talk between Macron and Frederiksen signalled the importance of the Franco-Danish dialogue in shaping Europe's security agenda. The backdrop of Christiansborg Palace, home to Denmark's parliament and monarchy, reinforced the democratic foundations of a continent grappling with external threats. The choice of Copenhagen as the venue underscored solidarity with the Nordic and Baltic states, which face some of the most direct challenges from Russian air and maritime activities. As the leaders moved behind closed doors to begin their deliberations, expectations were high. On the table were proposals for enhanced coordination of Europe's air defence systems, increased financial support for Ukraine's military effort, and new measures to counter hybrid and cyber threats. While this was not a formal European Council summit, the Copenhagen meeting was widely viewed as a step toward forging a more coherent and united European response to the security challenges it faces. For Prime Minister Frederiksen, hosting the summit was both a symbolic and a practical opportunity. By bringing Europe's leaders to Copenhagen, she aimed to underscore Denmark's own commitment to European defence and to highlight the need for unity across a bloc that spans from the Arctic to the Mediterranean. The day's events demonstrated the human side of politics as well, moments of levity, gestures of friendship, but also the visible tension that accompanies high-stakes diplomacy. These interactions reflected both the challenges and the determination of the European Union as it seeks to balance domestic priorities with the demands of a continent at a crossroads. By the end of the arrivals and photo opportunities, the palace courtyard had fallen quiet, and the focus shifted to the conference rooms inside, where the real work of negotiation began. Observers noted that the success of this summit would be measured not just in the speeches delivered, but in the practical steps agreed upon to bolster Europe's defences and sustain Ukraine's fight for sovereignty. In the words of one senior diplomat who spoke off camera, "What we decide here in Copenhagen will shape Europe's defence for the decade to come." That sentiment captures both the urgency and the historic nature of this meeting, a gathering that seeks to redefine Europe's approach to collective security at a time of escalating challenges. From the welcoming smiles at the palace gates to the solemn closed-door sessions within, the Copenhagen summit stands as a vivid example of European diplomacy at work. Symbolic gestures intertwined with strategic decisions. It revealed both the diversity of the European Union and the common resolve to defend its values and its borders. Reporting from Copenhagen, this has been your AFP TV correspondent, bringing you the sights, voices and atmosphere of a day that may well prove to be a defining moment for Europe's security and its future path in a time of war and uncertainty.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Yes.
Yes, fantastic. She's great. See you. Go in.
Yeah. I did the sculptures around us to see
Nice to see you. Welcome. Copenhagen.
Nice to see you. Yeah. Thank you. The same. The events is going great out so many points in the difference. Brought you some chocolates. Some chocolates, of course. Yeah.
Oh, it's
It's a big box. Special taste. I hope you like chocolate.
nice of you. So I will just. Yes. One of my favorites. Good to see you. Wait.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yeah, right.
See you. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much for hosting us. The beautiful country. It's amazing. Everything offshore. And is it offshore with the solar panels?
How are you? Nice to see you again. Pressure is on you now. And I would like to say pressure is on the Parliament. What a pleasure to see you. Hi there. It was great this morning. It was great. It was great. It's good. True. Here's just. Good. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Campaigning.
Yes.
I'm very welcome.
Thank you.
Come
Thank you.
inside. See you.
Good to see you, Mette.
Good to see
Yes.
you.
Mette. Nice to meet you. Thank you for hosting us.
Good time to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. You're very much welcome. Good to see you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Miss. We'll see you in a minute. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So we are all ready.
Yes.
Yes.
For the team.
Fint at se dig.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
What about this? See you.
Good to see you.
Pleasure.
Yeah. to build.